Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to The Bachelor latest news. The Bachelor season 29 has been a struggle from start to finish. And after Grant Ellis' snooze of a season, I don't think I can safely trust the show's producers to choose entertaining leads anymore. Throughout The Bachelor season 29, I've been hopeful that Grant would wind up finding his way. After seeing him open up to Jen Tran during The Bachelorette season 21, I felt like Grant would be a solid lead. With a decent amount of emotional availability, Grant seemed to be a responsible, upstanding guy, despite the stories he'd shared about his family's struggles in the past. While Grant's behavior throughout Jen's season didn't always make me believe he'd be able to engage in a relationship born from the show's process, I also didn't feel like he was going to bolt at the first sign of feelings. Grant, for me, sat somewhere in the middle in terms of Bachelor leads. No one could compare to a Joey Graziadei or a Scene Lowe, but Grant seemed like he'd sit in an upper tier of a Bachelor ranking, nowhere near a Juan Pablo Galavis or a Brad Womack. Unfortunately, Grant's boring, which is sometimes worse than being a villain. Although I was certain none of the guys on Jen's season would make a fantastic Bachelor, I was at least confident that Grant was the best choice out of the group. Unfortunately for the Bachelor franchise, Jen's difficult season set a tone that was going to be difficult to outrun no matter who took the lead. After The Bachelorette season 21, the show needed a lead that was going to be safe, smart, and somewhat reserved to ensure things didn't go off the rails. While it would have been great to see a season of chaos, Bachelor producers played it safe. As predicted, Grant's been a boring Bachelor. This isn't necessarily a knock to Grant though, because I've enjoyed him as a person, but it's clear that this season is meant to be far more stable than some other seasons have been in the past. Grant's meant to be undeniably predictable, which has made it hard for anyone to really root for him. As Grant's moved through the process, he's been emotionally vulnerable, he's opened up about his past, and he's been reserved with his feelings. This, unfortunately, makes him a predictable lead who I'm not having a great time following. Although I understand why the Bachelor producers chose to take this route, I'm so tired of the way they choose to tackle their issues. Bachelor producers face the same problems season after season, but they also try to use the same solutions to fix those problems without fail. It's baffling that they then don't understand why their seasons are predictable, why their drama is stale, and why their viewers aren't sticking around for more. Unfortunately for Grant, he's experiencing a difficult showing as a byproduct of poor decision-making, not from his own actions. In all honesty, I don't think I can continue to watch shows in the Bachelor franchise if the show keeps choosing people to lead seasons who don't have a good reason to be there. More often than not, the producers choose a lead who's had an emotionally resonant arc in the previous season of The Bachelorette. But that doesn't always make a good Bachelor. If the Bachelor producers can't figure out how to choose dynamic leads and shake things up, I can't keep watching and waiting for them to change. The Bachelor season 29 has been tough for viewers to get behind, and I think it's safe to say at this point that the show's producers made a mistake choosing Grant Ellis as the lead. While many came out of The Bachelorette season 21 wary of the franchise after the way Jen Tran was treated throughout the season, many felt satisfied with the decision to put Grant in the spotlight. Throughout his time on The Bachelorette, Grant was one of the best men from the season. Known for his emotional maturity, Grant's elimination left him open to take the lead. Moving into his season of the franchise, Grant seemed like he was prepared for The Bachelor season 29 as the season got closer to airing. While he had some emotional moments during his time on The Bachelorette, there was a lot more to unpack about Grant which viewers got the chance to see as he moved into the leading role. I was excited for Grant's season initially, but after seeing him in action on The Bachelor, I think the producers of the show made a mistake casting him as the lead. Grant's been boring to watch despite sharing his emotions. Although he made it to the final four, Grant's time on The Bachelorette was fairly minimal. While I enjoyed watching Grant and Jen connect, it was clear from early on that there wasn't a long-term attraction there. Grant did get a great edit on the show, despite not being heavily featured on The Bachelorette throughout the season. Viewers got to know more about Grant, learning the 30-year-old day trader was formerly a professional basketball player in his younger years. While his time on the show didn't end in a relationship with Jen, Grant found himself moving into the driver's seat. Although Grant has been able to connect with some of the women on his season, it's been clear that his emotional availability has a limit. While his connections have been strong with some, watching Grant try to make emotional connections with the majority of the Bachelor Season 29 cast has been painful. Despite seeing Grant open up during The Bachelorette Season 21 and in the early moments of his own season, he's been remarkably closed off on his own season. While I think this happens fairly frequently with leads when they come from a prior season, Grant's diplomacy's been overwhelming. The experience of being the Bachelor, his actual emotions have been hard to access. Despite knowing that in order to build a relationship, Grant has to open up about his feelings, he hasn't been doing so frequently enough on screen. The women of Grant's season have been trusting in him throughout, sharing their feelings and making their intentions clear, but Grant struggled to meet them in the middle. Instead, he's been more aloof and unavailable in person, while sharing some of his true feelings in confessional interviews. Throughout his time as the lead, Grant has been diplomatic to a fault, which has caused him not only to stay closed off, but to try and manage the feelings of others, rather than honoring his own. Instead of trying to ensure that he's getting the most out of the experience, Grant has been trying to ensure that he doesn't get hurt by not hurting others. Keeping his emotions close to the chest, Grant has been doing his best to placate the women of his season, trying to ensure they're happy whether he has interest in them or not. As a model people pleaser, Grant has been doing his best to ensure that none of the women on The Bachelor are overly hurt, despite needing to eliminate them week after week. While Grant may think he's doing something that will ultimately cause less pain by continually bringing women he's not connecting with through the season to see if something will develop, he's not trusting his instincts enough. I feel like watching Grant has been toughest in moments where he won't honor his true feelings, and is instead trying to make sure that the women on the show aren't hurt. Although Grant's been a kind-hearted lead who knows he wants to find love, watching him has been boring because of the safe decisions he's made as the lead. Grant's time on The Bachelor has proven that he wasn't entirely ready to commit to a long-term relationship, despite believing he was prepared for it. While this isn't Grant's fault, watching him has felt like a punishment in moments, rather than a treat. I'm hoping that in the future, The Bachelor leads aren't just the most emotionally open man on a previous Bachelorette cast, but someone who's ready for love. The Bachelor's Rachel Kirkconnell and Matt James may have broken up, but Rachel just called the split a blessing in disguise, despite admitting she might always be a little bummed out about the way it ended. Matt and Rachel famously met during The Bachelor Season 25, and Matt chose Rachel for his final rose, although he didn't propose. The pair remained together and was one of Bachelor Nation's most beloved couples to come from the franchise, with Matt becoming a food influencer since their time on the show. Matt and Rachel's split in January 2025 made headlines for blindsiding Rachel. Rachel opened up to Us Weekly about how she's been doing in the months since splitting up with Matt, and how she feels about the breakup now, saying everything happens for a reason, and the split was something that needed to occur. Rachel said she's doing well since the split, and is trusting the process. Despite claiming that the breakup was a blessing, she shockingly admitted that she doesn't even know why she feels that way. She just does, and she's decided to trust that gut feeling. Rachel continued on to say that she still feels like the breakup happened out of nowhere, and she feels like Matt probably has some regrets about that, although she doesn't reveal whether she and Matt are still in contact. She can reflect on the relationship with the benefit of hindsight, and it seems like she's processing it in a healthy way. The ending is the most troubling part for her, since she and Matt dated for over 4 years, and the abrupt split undermined the time they spent together. Rachel is putting on a brave face amid a very public breakup. She's been able to process publicly, even sharing in the immediate weeks following the split that the Bachelor producers made Rachel feel like a failure after she and Matt failed to get engaged on camera. Rachel seems like a lot of women following a traumatic breakup, in that she's picking up the pieces and moving forward while recognizing that the split was actually for the best. Rachel isn't publicly bashing her ex or spilling tea from the relationship. She's simply grieving the 4 years she spent with Matt, but it seems like she's looking forward to the next chapter. Admitting that the split was inevitable is a healthy way for Rachel to process what happened, since she wasn't meant to be with Matt if they couldn't find happiness together. It's the silver lining in any breakup. If it simply wasn't meant to be, it makes it a whole lot easier to move on, which Rachel is doing. The Bachelor's Grant Ellis sent 27-year-old tech engineer and model Zoe McGrady home on the latest episode, and I'm shocked it didn't happen sooner. This season, Grant's been accused of being too nice to be on The Bachelor Season 29, and of misleading the contestants while having no intention of choosing them in the end. Grant, 31, narrowed down his search to Zoe, 28-year-old client services associate Juliana Pasquarosa, and 31-year-old venture capitalist Licia Gare, before sending Zoe packing in the Dominican Republic. Grant claimed sending Zoe home was hard, but didn't really give her any reasons for her departure. In my opinion, Grant struggled to have major chemistry with anyone since he sent Carolina Sofia home. I'm convinced Carolina was the only person Grant actually felt a deep connection with, but he got scared of all of her antics with the other women and chose to eliminate her just before hometown dates. Zoe and Grant had a friendly back and forth, but it never went beyond that in my opinion. I'm honestly surprised that Zoe made it as far as she did. Despite staying in the fantasy suite with Zoe and Juliana, Grant still felt his connection with her wasn't strong enough to pick her in the end. Zoe was very guarded throughout the entire season. She stirred up a little drama by stealing Grant away from the other women at inopportune times, but it felt like Zoe was doing it to make an impression on Grant, rather than genuinely wanting to spend more time with him and explore their connection. Zoe's competitive nature surged during her Bachelor journey. Whether it was beating the other girls at basketball, trying to ride a mechanical bull for the longest amount of time, or pulling the classic, "Can I steal him for a second" move that The Bachelor is famous for, Zoe ruffled some feathers. However, she failed to show Grant she could get deep with him. She wasn't as showy as the other women, so she didn't create a spectacle. Instead, she quietly managed to make it through each week. It was only a matter of time before she had to go home. In fact, the only time I saw fire in Zoe's eyes was when she was competing for something. She brushed off the other women's complaints by claiming she was here to shoot her shot, not make friends with all the ladies. I think Zoe lacked some of the warmth that Grant wants. I'm not saying women need to be warm, but I think that's what Grant's looking for in a partner. I don't blame Zoe for being guarded, since it's tough to be vulnerable with someone who's actively dating other women. I wish Grant had declined the fantasy suite with Zoe, because sending her home after spending the night with her is downright cruel. create solid friendships while she was on the show. She came in hot, letting everyone know getting to know Grant was her priority. Grant seemed to appreciate Zoe. But as the show progressed, Zoe got less and less one-on-one time with him. She expressed her fear about not having as much time with Grant to Rachel Nance, a contestant from Joey Graziadis's season of The Bachelor, who came to the Dominican Republic to help guide Zoe as she navigated making it to the bottom 3. I think it wasn't just the lack of one-on-one time with Grant that held Zoe back. It was the lack of chemistry between the two. Zoe opened up to Grant about how her childhood, raised by adoptive white parents in the South, impacted who she is today, and Grant seemed receptive to it. But then later on, Grant blames the stall in his relationship with Zoe on her, saying she wasn't opening up enough for him. Honestly, Zoe, this guy ain't it, and you're better off without him. My theory is that all the other contestants were intimidated by Grant's connection with Carolina, and the way the show became all about her. A lot of them backed off of Grant, since he clearly favored Carolina, and Zoe, who was already so guarded, got even more closed off towards Grant. By the time he sent Carolina home, Zoe struggled to make up for lost time, and it was too little, too late in the end. Now that Grant's down to his final 2, Juliana and Licia, he doesn't have any distractions. I agree with critics that Grant has struggled this season. He was careful to preserve his good guy image, so he failed to take a definitive stance on the women, which led some to feel missiled after he eliminated them. To be honest, I don't think he has electric chemistry with any of the remaining finalists. While he spent the night in the show's famed fantasy suite with Juliana, I don't think he'll stay with her over Licia, who declined the fantasy suite. If I had to make a choice right now, I'd guess Grant is going to choose Licia to be his fiancée, just because he's seen a tender side of her. I think Grant knows Licia would make a good wife and mother, and he said he wanted to find that type of partner. Now I don't think they'll end up actually getting married, but I do think Licia will win. I think Grant might spin the block on Carolina eventually, which would be very entertaining. Grant and Carolina had the most chemistry this entire season. It popped off the screen. Grant had to send her home, but I think he regrets it. Zoe managed to slip by each week, but she knew that she had the weakest connection with Grant. She openly expressed it to the other women, and to Grant himself, but it couldn't save her from all the time she lost when Grant was preoccupied with Carolina. Zoe could not have been surprised to have been sent home. The writing was on the wall, and Zoe's time was up. Then give your opinion in the comment box, and stay with us by subscribing the channel. Thank you.